All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in for tonight's team call. I am so excited that you are here. I am a big proponent that there needs to be value or it's just not even worth doing it. So I want you guys to just be reassured that I always ask the people that I look up to that I know will always bring value. I make sure, when I do team calls that they're not just doing one to do one, but making sure that it's going to be something that adds value to you in your life and your business. So I appreciate you making this a priority to get on. And I'm so excited for tonight. So, a lot of times we get coaches on who are, hitting these high success club numbers and are able to kind of share the things that are working for them. And the reason why I wanted to get the speaker on tonight is because she is someone that I have seen continue to show up, continue to bring in these high volume numbers and continue to add value on social media and have new clients joining her, but she's doing it in a different way. And she's doing it without focusing on some of the things that Beachbody focuses on. And I've seen her find her journey in joy and not setting these goals just because she thinks Beachbody wants her to. And I think you guys will just be really inspired. And I reached out to her. We've got Missy Reber on tonight. And I just told her, I feel that what you have to share, Missy, is going to be what other people need to hear and going to be exactly what someone was hoping for because they're struggling to find maybe their place within Beachbody. Missy Weaver is one of my star diamond coaches, and she's been doing this for, I want to say 8 years, if I'm remembering that correctly. You can correct me, Missy. And yeah, it's so crazy to think. And she lives in Oregon with her 6 kids and her husband. And it was crazy for her to point out to me the other day that she's got 2 teenagers, 2 tweens, and then 2 toddlers. So kind of all the hard stages, a boy and girl in each stage, but I'll let her kind of share more of her story. But I bring to you guys Missy Reber, and Missy, I'll let you take it from here.
Okay. So thank you, Brigitte, for having me on. I was telling Brigitte, I feel a little nervous. I haven't done this in a long time. I've just been stuck at home with my kids. So if I by chance get a little choppy, someone flag me down because sometimes my country internet does not love me very much. So I find it rather interesting that Brigitte asked me to do this call now. As she was saying, my life is incredibly crazy right now. I have 2 teenagers, a boy and a girl, 2 tweens, a boy and a girl, and 2 toddlers, a boy and a girl. So I was laughing with my husband. I'm like, how is it possible that God asked me to do this all at once? I don't know. And I'm not like the patron saint of patience, you guys. So it's not easy. But what I find really interesting about the timing of this call is, yes, my life is crazy, but I find the point that we're at in Team Beachbody right now is sort of similar to where I felt it was when I started this business 8 years ago, meaning we're sort of on the cusp of massive innovation, right? And when I first started, it took months, PS, for Brigitte to get me to join as a coach. I had lost my baby weight with Insanity, and she was like, you really should coach. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. I don't know how to use Facebook. Literally, I did not know how to send a Facebook message. So that sounds really funny considering how massive social media was, but even Facebook was very new. I now feel like a really old grandma. But what was interesting about the time that I joined Beachbody was really the network was really just starting to gain its momentum with coaches. It was very new. Social media was very new. None of us knew what the heck we were doing. And so that's kind of where I found myself jumping into coaching. And as I sat and thought about it, my life was completely chaotic then, which is kind of the excuse that I gave my husband was finishing graduate school. I had just had my 4th baby. I had just come through massive postpartum depression. My life was not convenient. Okay. And we'll talk about this as we go along. I was so passionate about what Beachbody did for me myself, that everybody was already asking me about it. And so I want you to know that as I look at Beachbody right now, I see this kind of mirror image of the beginning back then of what we're about to experience. And I thought, oh my gosh, like everybody needs to realize that now is the time to be here. And so the message I'm going to share, and I'm going to share a lot of opinions, a lot of lessons that I've learned along the way, which are personally my Beachbody experience and my personal growth. You may or may not have experienced something similar. You may or may not agree with my opinions, but I want you to come away from my story, one, with just like the deep conviction that you belong here. I don't care what that looks like. I always told my team that the most important person you ever change with Beachbody is yourself. And frankly, I've been through a lot of seasons in the last couple of years, and I'll dive into this in a minute, where that's all I could do. Like it's all I could manage was to just fit in a 30-minute workout and try to post something on social media. So what I want you to come away from this is that now is the time to just stick around. Okay. Whether you feel like you do it well or not, doesn't matter. Now's the time to be here because Beachbody's on the verge of massive wave of explosion. I just like feel the Beachbody tingling in my fingers. Like, I'm like, this is going to be amazing. So you're in the right place. And I want you to know that no matter what your life looks like, you belong here. And no matter the circumstances that change or shift in your life, it doesn't matter. You can stay here. Because, did I freeze? Okay, you froze for a second, Brigitte. Okay, you're good. Okay, so I'm going to go into a little bit more of my story. So like I sort of said, when I came on, I had just had my fourth baby. I always have issues with postpartum after my babies. My husband was in graduate school. I did Insanity. Coaching was new, and everybody was asking me what I was doing. Like every mom because I lost all my baby weight and I felt amazing. And if there's anything I've learned that's true about this business is it sells itself. Because when you're living it, the energy that it gives you, the confidence that it gives you, the joy that it gives you bubbles out. So you can't, like some random person asked me about coaching the other day, and I'm not super involved right now because of my life circumstances. And like, it just like flew out of my mouth. And she's like, man, how can I do that? And I started laughing. I was like, okay, guess I still got it. Like, because the truth is that's how I got into coaching. Was I was so passionate about how it changed me as a person that I just dove in with that. So just remember that you cannot put a quantity on how much your own personal investment in yourself actually grows your business. Okay. So the truth is like, when I came into this business, I was like, okay, well, I guess I can help people because I'm already doing it. I'm already like, I had totally bought a bootlegged version of Insanity off the internet. And then I'm like running groups. I didn't even make people buy stuff for my first group. And you know what's hilarious is I still am in contact with every single person that was in my first group. So here's what I want to cement to you. I started my business just purely by passion and like the joy of doing it myself and by loving the person in front of me. My first group had 7 people in it. I think one person bought something. Okay. It was like a $25 group. Okay. I had no idea what I was doing. Facebook was new and I just did it. Right. I really didn't have the intention of building this big, massive business or making a lot of money. Honestly, I just was like, I know this changed my life as a mom. I can help another mom and another mom and another mom. And that's all I did. And so in the beginning, there was this like magnetic joy about it, right? There was this energy I felt. I loved it. I mean, you couldn't even get me to shut my mouth about it. And my husband at the time, like I was working part-time as a nurse in the hospital and I was making $1,000 a month. And my husband wanted to go on this extended vacation to Oregon because we wanted to check it out for when he was graduating. We wanted to move here. So we wanted to take our kids on this big vacation up the Oregon coast. And I couldn't get the time off. Like they were like, well, I don't know. I'm like, dude, I work once a week. You can't even give me the day off. Like, what the heck? So I told my husband, I said, if I can make $1,000, I'm going to quit my job. And he laughed at me. He's like, okay, whatever, Missy. I'd been a nurse for 12 years. Okay. I graduated from nursing school at 19, took my boards before I turned 20. I mean, I was passionate about nursing, but I was like, I'm done with the control. Like, I want to live my life. So T25, here's it's going to date me. T25 was launched. And I was like, I was literally selling challenge packs in the car, like from my crappy cell phone. And I made $999. Okay. I quit my job and I never looked back. So that was completely unintentional. Like, yes, I worked hard. Okay. Yes, I talked to people. Yes, I opened my mouth, but the energy behind it was pure passion and joy. So this is what I think is really, really important is that the only constant that you can count on in your life is change. So in this business, okay, this Beachbody is a business, okay? It's run by a man. I am a woman. I don't have a man brain. I did not have a business brain when I joined this business. So as I sort of got swept along in the joy of this building this business, I went 1-star diamond. I went 2-star diamond, like, oh, surely because I found people. Like I was so joyful about it. It didn't feel hard to me. Okay. It didn't feel like I was building a business. It didn't feel awkward. It literally just bubbled out of my body. And yes, it doesn't just happen, but I put the effort in. Okay. And I have little kids and my life was insanity, but I did at that time, my life, I was 29 years old and I had more energy than I do now. And I would get up in the morning and I would work out and I would work for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Then I would get up with my kids and then I would, work in the cracks of my day. And that worked for me then. Okay. So that's how I built for the first couple of years of my business. So fast forward, my husband graduates from pharmacy school. So he got his doctorate, which was, I don't recommend it. It was hell. We both have PTSD from graduate school. Anyway, we survived. We moved to Oregon and we were living in this tiny little rental. So there was kind of this Beachbody joke in my team. Like when we went to corporate office for the first time, someone asked me what my goal was. And I was like, oh, my goal is to buy a bunch of land because my husband wants to raise buffalo. And they started laughing. So Doug Moss in corporate office called me Buffalo Girl for like probably 3 years. He probably wouldn't anymore because he doesn't remember, but it was like this crazy idea we had. So we moved to Oregon and we're living in this tiny, tiny rental house with crazy neighbors. I have 4 small nutso children. I mean, how old was my oldest? 8. So I had 4 kids, 8 and under. I'm working Beachbody, like literally doing team calls in my bathroom. But I was still in sort of this space of joy, right? And I didn't even realize that whoever studies the Enneagram, the type 1s and the type 3s right now are going to have a coronary because I didn't even realize how much money I was making. Like I didn't care. And this is just the truth. My husband like had a job. I didn't care. I mean, I knew I made enough to quit my job, but I was just putting all my money into one bank account. And we had this goal that I was like, I'm going to take all my Beachbody money and I'm going to put it in a bank account. And so one day my husband came home and he opened up this was probably 5 months after we moved. And I'm dying in this little, it was like 1,100 square foot rental with a tiny backyard. I mean, we were dying with our 4 kids. And he's like, Missy, do you realize that you're making as much money as I am? And I like about fell off I was like, no, I'm not. He's like, look at your paycheck. I was like, oh my gosh, I am. And so I'm not money motivated. It's my weird personality. I'm a Enneagram 2. If any of you are 2s, then you know how I feel. But I was purely running on the adrenaline of joy at that point. And so we put this money away. And I mean, Brigida remembers this. I had made this dream board at a team retreat of like the property I wanted and like all these things. So I found this property and I was like, my kids are dying in this tiny little neighborhood. I'm like, Jeff, we have got to get out of here. So I'm just putting money away. And literally when we put an offer on this house, when we closed, I took every cent down to literally the penny. And it was exactly to the penny how much money we needed for the down payment for our house. So still the house we're living in, my husband wishes we could burn it to the ground because he has to fix things because it's old. But still, anyway, so that was kind of where I started. And then, life happened. So so I'm going to share some opinions here. Take them or leave them. Okay. And I'm going to share kind of this sandwich middle of my Beachbody experience. So, at this time, there was kind of like this wave of like explosion in Beachbody. Everyone's advancing in rank and everybody is elite this. And I'm not a numbers person. I'm not even competitive. So like literally I was just driven by joy. And I sort of got swept into this like idea of like, oh, well, everybody's retiring their husband and everybody has these goals and everybody is doing X, Y, Z. And I was like, okay, like, I guess I have to do that, And so I did. I retired my husband. I went elite twice. I was like, I think I was 32 one year and 42 the next year. Anyway, I was in like the top 50 for 2 years. I genuinely was just working on joy. Like I didn't track the numbers. I didn't track the leaderboard. People are going to hate that I'm saying that, but it's the truth. I didn't care about that, but I sort of got swept up into this expectation that that's what I was supposed to care about. And over time, my husband was home. So I was like, well, that means I have to work more. And we wanted to homeschool our kids. And so my husband was homeschooling the kids and I just started putting hours into work, hours and hours. And I'm like, and frankly, I don't even know that it moved the needle that much, but I felt like that's what I had to do. Right. And so I found myself getting increasingly like anxious and frustrated, oh, well, they say I have to hit Success Club by the 5th of the month. Like they say I have to do this and now there's a new program and I have to do that and I don't want to do that. And so I started to have this kind of internal battle with like not Beachbody corporate, but just like it's a business. Their job is to create new crap. Their job is to motivate people, but I was already internally motivated by joy. So what happened is I shifted and so that happened. I didn't even so much see it. Of course, my husband tells me he saw it, but because I became stressed, right? I became stressed about the metrics. And honestly, it sucked the life out of me. And my husband was homeschooling my kids. Okay. So raise your hand if you want to think that went really well. It's not that he was a bad teacher. It's that he's not the mom. right? And then I was working and I was coming in and like, everything's a mess. And like, I homeschool my kids now. Guess what? Everything's a mess, but it's my own fault. It's not his fault. So, okay. So here's the problem that I had is I was working. He was being the mom, and I always wanted to be the mom. Like, and so I struggled because I felt I was like doing both roles. Anyway, so that's where we found ourselves, and we were trying to make it work and things were fine. And then, okay, this is where I'm going to warn you, I'm going to get emotional. So I'll try not to get overly emotional. So here's the truth of it all. I can say this till I'm blue in the face, but you get one life, guys. Okay. This is it. Like, and my brain, I am an Enneagram too. And if you've ever studied the Enneagram, everything to me is relationship based, everything. So the problem with my ever-growing team and my ever-growing business was that I felt this super heavy responsibility to take care of everyone. And so I didn't know how to like not give so much time and worry about everyone. So like when I signed up a coach, I worried about them as a person for one, because I genuinely cared. Two, I worried so much about their business. And I thought it was my responsibility to make sure they succeeded. Okay. And I'm just saying, like, this is my personality. Everybody doesn't feel this way, but I did. And my husband's like, it's not personal, it's business. And I'm like, I can't do that. Like and because I was literally running on love and joy, like that was the fuel to my fire. It literally built me a 6-figure income. I couldn't function in the man brain. Like I couldn't get out of it. And so it literally made me sick and it made me so stressed, and I didn't even really see it. So this is what happened. So my best friend that I grew up with, she was my best friend since the time I was 11, got diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. Okay. She was 32. She was pregnant with her 5th baby. And this is when like the light bulb went off in my brain. Like, I'm going to swear. So cover your kids' ears. Holy shit. What have I done to myself? Because she got diagnosed with cancer. And do you want to know this is horrifying. Ready for it? The first thing that went through my brain, how am I going to post? Because if you know me, like I am authentic to a fault. Like I cannot squeeze you to death and tell you I love you 75 times. Like I don't know how to be inauthentic, right? I just like what you see is what you get. I literally bleed onto social media my truth. Like, and so there was this air in Beachbody where it was like, oh, you build your business by sharing everything. That's how people connect to you. And I was literally dying like with her. Okay. My best friend in the entire world got diagnosed with terminal cancer, pregnant. Okay. I couldn't speak a word of it. So she's a super private person. She wasn't even on social media. Okay. It wasn't my story to share. So my life literally crumbled out from beneath me and I couldn't say a word. Like, so it made me really stop and one, evaluate my mortality. Two, evaluate why my brain thought like that. Like, why is it that my first thought is like, oh my gosh, what am I going to post? Like, and anyway, so fast forward 5 months, it was November, Beachbody. I'm like a star diamond, like all these on the outside, all these amazing things are happening, right? I'm literally dying, like alongside my best friend, right? So she calls me. So they asked me to do, okay, so beginning of, it was October, I think, they asked me to do the national wake up call, right? So every Beachbody coach in the business is like, this is the pinnacle. This is what you dream about, getting your face on the national wake up call. I don't like public speaking, but I was like, oh, this is such an honor. I should say yes. Of course I should do it. Everybody wants to hear from me. I felt flattered, terrified, but flattered. But I'm literally like barely eating at this point. And I'm like, okay, sure, I'll do the national wake up call. Do you see what I mean? Like Beachbody had literally taken over my brain. And I didn't feel like I had a choice because, oh, this is what leaders do. And this is your business. Anyway, so fast forward, this is also going to be kind of funny. Like just for the sense of where we find ourselves. But when I got asked to do the national wake up call, they told me I had to do it from a landline. So I couldn't do it from my cell phone. And so I had to go to my Beachbody best friend, another Beachbody coach's house, Kiana, and do the team call. I do the national wake up call at her house because I didn't have a landline in the country. We just had cell phones. So long story short, here's my other light bulb moment. I'm literally getting on the national wake up call and I cannot even function. Like Kiana, like put her hands on my face and her forehead to mine and like prayed like I have never heard someone pray for their friend to get me through that call. Had you listened to that call, you would have never known because nobody knew. Nobody knew my best friend had literally called me 3 days before that call and said, Missy, I need you to get on a plane. When your dying best friend says, get on a plane, she's dying, right? So here was where I found myself, right? So a month later, my best friend passed away. So she's gone forever. And of course, like my whole world comes crashing down. It's Christmas. My husband didn't even know what to do with me. He like sent me to Kiana's house. He's like, I don't know what to do with her. So I'm grieving. My best friend passed away. She left 5 kids and my brain is stuck in Beachbody. It was the weirdest thing for me. Like, it was like, I can't explain it. Right. So anyway, I had a team retreat planned for February for all of my diamond coaches and my best friend dies. And you know what I did? I went back to work. And if you know an Enneagram 2, like that is the worst possible thing that I could have done. And so I did. January, like 2 weeks after she passed away, I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to get back to work. And I tried. So because it's January and that's what you're supposed to do, right? Start your New Year's challenge group and yada, yada, yada. Like life goes on. Well, my life was not going on, right? So I get through January, I get through my team retreat. And by March, my body like shut down, like completely shut down. I mean, I don't know if any of my team is on here and can remember, but I couldn't even get on a team call without crying. Like clearly my God's like, hello, you need to grieve. So that's where I found myself. So yes, maybe that's like a dramatic wake up call, but it's the worst kind, right? But this is the truth that I want you to walk away from this call. Not that like you should be scared because anything can happen anytime. But one, Beachbody can add value to your life. It can be an incredibly huge financial blessing to your family. There will be times that you can work and hustle, but life changes, okay? Like life changes. Beachbody is not God, okay? And you have to listen to your like soul's blueprint for business. And that's what I didn't understand. Because guess what? I never intended to start a business. So people have said this a lot of times on National Wake Up Call, but if you want to personally grow, sign up for network marketing because it exposes you to like having to grow yourself at a rapid pace, right? So that's where I found myself. So I had a choice, right? I was like, do I quit? I thought about quitting. I mean, I couldn't. I mean, you can ask my husband. I went through months and months of just like this internal, obviously grief and struggle and frustration and anger at Beachbody. Like, why did you invade my brain? And like anger at myself. Like, how did I let this happen? Like, and this, like, how in the world do I get out of it? Because like, I love Beachbody. Like I do. And But I think it's so important to ask yourself, Beachbody can be part of your life. It can be a vehicle to bless your life, but it is not your life. And you have to be okay to ask yourself, what do I really want? Like, what do I want out of life? And so that was my, what the hell do I want? Like, and it's been ugly. Like, it's been really hard to figure that out. But isn't this like the purpose of life, right? And so if you find yourself on this call, if you find yourself in Team Beachbody, don't run for the hills after I just told you that horrible story, but trust yourself, trust your body. Okay. If you have not done your Enneagram number, I highly recommend you do so and tell your coach what it is. Because I had to learn about myself. I had to grow, and I'm still growing leaps and bounds in lots of messy, ugly ways. And that's great. And so I had a lot of guilt for a long time. And I think there's this mentality, at least kind of sort of when I didn't leave Beachbody, but when I took a step back from Beachbody, there was sort of this mentality of like, oh, well, if you're a leader and you stop working at 9,000 miles an hour, you're a failure or you're a deserter or whatever. But I'm going to tell you right now, like, you don't own your coach's businesses. They do. Like, you can change your mind. You can change your priorities. You can ask God, what do you want me to do? And you can follow it. And Beachbody has no say. That being said, I love Beachbody. Like, love it. I'm still freaking doing their workouts. I've been doing them since 2007. And I still, like, I tell my husband all the time, I'm like, oh, I just want to find like 5 hours in the week to give to my business. Like this morning, I was going to get up 5. First time in 2 years that I was like, I think I might have energy to do that. Guess what time my toddler got up? And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, kind of funny that I'm on this call, right? Anyway, so what happened for me? Okay. So I had to grieve. I had to give myself some space to deal with my anger at myself, had to figure out how to not feel guilty for that like mentality of, oh, you're abandoning people if you change your mind or you shift in your life, or like, that's hard as a leader. And I had to ask myself, what do I want out of this? And so when I asked myself, like, I could keep building business, like my business full steam, and I could keep making a heck of a lot of money. But in 10 years, okay, I was 30 something at the time. Am I going to regret the things that I could have done instead? So that being said, I had 4 kids. I wasn't sure if I was done having kids. I could not do both. I wanted to homeschool my kids. I wanted to homeschool my kids myself as the mother. I couldn't work at the pace that I was working and do those things and heal the issues that I had. So, she's like, well, not your husband homeschooling. No, like, there's no way. Like, yeah, anyway, we could laugh about that all day, but he's great. And in fact, my husband, a lot of people retired their husbands at this phase of Beachbody. It was like totally a thing. And it works for some people. My husband's like, oh my gosh, I have to go back to work. Like, please, like, get me out of here. He just like it. Anyway, pish posh, another story. But like, that's the way my husband's brain works. Like, he was going nuts being home, being the mom. Like, it drove him crazy. So I had a choice. So I decided to have one more baby, right? So I get pregnant. I posted all through my pregnancy, loved it. I was the healthiest I've ever been. My 5th pregnancy was like the best pregnancy I've ever had. Had him in an hour and a half. But the funny story is we thought he was a girl. They told us in our ultrasound he was a girl. And it was like this big thing for me because I'm like, I'm going to name him after my best friend. And like, anyway, so it was this kind of like this big like anticipation of like emotional healing for me, right? he came out a boy, guys. Like the day he was born, he came out a boy. So then what's everyone's reaction? Oh, well, you're going to have another one. Never ask a woman who just had a baby if she's having another one within 24 hours. It's just not a good idea. Anyway, so long story short, I had Gabe, and then I got pregnant a year later. Surprise, I had Sarah. So now I find myself with 2 teenagers, 2 tweens, 2 toddlers, and I'm almost 40. So this, and temporarily, because I've had anxiety my whole life, but after my best friend died, it was really bad for a while. So when I was trying to get pregnant, we put our kids back in school just to like take a breather. So anyway, so they were in school until I got pregnant with Rosie. And then when Rosie was born, I pulled all my kids out of school pre-pandemic. So now we're back homeschooling again, and I love it. And it's insanity, but I love it. So I still find myself like unanticipated. I didn't plan on having a 6th baby, but here we are. Wouldn't trade her. She just turned 2. And I'm like, I still feel like I can barely come up for air with my life. So the moral of the story is, no, I'm not building Beachbody like I was. And when I made the decision to have another baby and to bring my kids home and homeschool myself, I made the decision to most likely not make nearly as much money as I was making. And that was okay with me. And it's not failure. Okay. Like I am in, it's just different. And so, and honestly, like I sell challenge packs. I sell bod like hotcakes all the time, but I do it half the time. I don't even know how it happens. I was like, oh, okay, sure. I'll sign you up, but I'm consistent. I show up the best I can, but I also I don't hold myself to the standard of like, you have to share everything. You have to be perfect. Like my new motto, literally my mantra for the week is show up and do it messy. Because like people are like, how do you homeschool? How's your house clean? I'm like, it's not, it's never clean. It's fine. It's like, so don't be afraid and don't think you don't have a place here and that you don't have value if you have to show up and do it messy. I am doing it messy. I would love to work more. I have no idea how that's going to pan out. I'm trying, but like I was like, oh, I'll get back to work after Gabe. And then I got pregnant again. Then I had Rosie and I was like, I'm going to feel better. And I mean, this isn't even something I've shared on social media, but I had such horrible postpartum anxiety after Rosie that like, I could barely even function. Like it was rough. And then we had the pandemic, and then we had an ice storm here where we were out of power for 14 days. And we were evacuated for fires. And so the timing of all of that, every time I started to come out of my postpartum anxiety, I had like a crazy trigger, like being evacuated from your house because there's fires in your backyard. Like, and so I would get thrown back into this cycle of like having to heal my body again. And here's what I want you to understand is like when you have Beachbody brain, as I like to call it, you carry this guilt like, oh, I don't have time to heal my body. I have to show up in 9,000 ways that Carl Deichler says for my business. And you don't. And you still have value. Like, and here's where I'll end is that I am flabbergasted as I look back over the last 8 years at the impact and the relationships that I have gained from this business because I've just hung around, because I'm still here. My best friends in the world. I mean, I just talked to both of them, like Kiana Hannah, who lives here in Oregon, that Brigitte was like, oh, my friend's moving there. You should be friends with her, Kiana. And we're super close. I talk to her almost every day. And then one of my Star Diamond coaches who left Beachbody, Jillian, we talk almost every day. And so many of my customers, like, I think there's this idea that if you don't take care of everyone, it's all going to fall apart. But I can't even tell you how many customers I still talk to from 7 years ago. and who are genuinely my friend. And the truth is that I look back and I sort of felt when I got to like what people would consider the top, right? And I'm in these rooms with like all the elite coaches and everyone's like talking business strategy. I felt pretty stupid, frankly, because I was like, guys, all I did was love people. Like, I don't know how I got here. Like, yes, I worked hard in talking to people, but what I was really doing is loving people and being myself and being genuine. And frankly, financially, it worked. Like, so I look back and I was like, well, maybe it was a good business strategy because I still have a very loyal customer base. Most of my customers, because I connected with them, have stuck around for years and years. And guys, that makes you money, but it doesn't just make you money. It really does change people's entire lives. Okay. So this is the last point I want to make, is that these customers that you sign up, these discount coaches, sometimes the corporate vehicle makes you feel like people are stepping stones in the way that like, you got to sign up coaches, you got to go diamond, you got to do all these things. And the truth is signing up like the basic customer is a great business plan, guys. It works. And the truth is when you change their life, they stick around for forever. You know, it doesn't mean that they're a Star Diamond coach, but it does mean that they are still part of your business. And so, no, am I making the money that I used to make? No, but I still make a lot of good money that helps my family do, like, I pay for our vacations every summer. Like, I pay for all the extra things my kids do. Yes, my husband works, but like, I don't see it as a fail. And so sometimes I feel like you can get this idea that just the average customer or just a discount coach or just even just sticking around and coaching yourself is valuable. And it is so valuable. I mean, I was thinking just the other day, like I turned on the new Body Interactive and I was like, oh, this is like so cool. And I thought, I had that like little excitement tingle that I had like all these years ago when I was literally after I had my fourth baby, like 2010, like it's crazy that Beachbody has given me a way to be healthy. Like I was never a workout person. And now I'm a workout person. Like that changed the trajectory of my entire life. My kids all come out here and work out. My boys' homeschool schedules, one of their classes is Lift 4. Like it literally transforms generations of lives. Like that is not to be discounted. So when I say like your joy, doing it your way, listening to your soul and like what you want out of this business, like following what you want in your life, if that maybe means that you work less hours for a while, like it matters still, and like maybe 5 years from now, I'll be, I'll build my big business again. Great. But I can look back and tell you that I did what I felt called to do in my life and that I don't have any regrets. And I did a lot of things wrong in my business. I'm like, oh, I should have probably tracked that better or whatever. But like, I am so grateful. I am. And I'm grateful for the hard, ugly parts too. Like, I'm grateful for that, like smack upside the head, like of like the reality check of like, are you living the life you want to live? Because I'm glad I had it because it changed the trajectory of my life. I had 2 more kids. My family's completely different. And I'm grateful for that. So, okay, I'm going to end with this. This is great because this is a full circle moment for Brigitte and I, because when I sold all of those T25 challenge packs. She was doing I don't know, a Success Club prize thing. And she sent me a prize for Success Club. And this is funny. She sent me a personal development book. And back then I was like, I don't read these. Now my daughter laughs at me because she's a big reader. And she's like, Mom, all you read is self-help books. It's so annoying. My teenager. She's like, can't you read some classic literature? Seriously. She's a book nerd. But Brigida sent me this book by Og Mandino, and it's called The Greatest Salesman in the World. And I didn't even read it. I was like, I'm not a salesperson. I don't want to sell things. Like, I literally like had this visceral reaction, like, yeah, not reading it. And I don't even know what in the world ended up motivating me to pick it up. But P.S., if you haven't read it, The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino, it's not really about sales, but it is about this idea that I'm talking about, that working from your center, your truth, your perfect goals of life and love, like literally just showing up and loving people and not carrying the burden of taking care of everybody. That's God's job. And literally just loving people is actually like the ultimate business plan. Okay. So I'm going to read you this quote, and it's from that book. And there's in this book, this guy receives 7 scrolls of wisdom, right? That are supposed to make him the greatest salesman in the world. And the first scroll is an explanation. The second scroll, which is most important, is this. So I'm just going to read you a piece of it. But this is the quote that literally threw my business forward and gave me confidence. So I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. And it says, if I have no other qualities, I can succeed with love alone. Without it, I will fail. Though I possess all the knowledge and skills of the world, I will greet this day with love and I will succeed. So success is not just Beachbody numbers, and it's not star diamond status. And success is truly being able to look back over your life and saying, I grew from the ugly parts. I processed the traumas of my life, and I lived the life that I wanted to live. And when I built my business with love and joy and passion, and I have no regrets. And sure, is it going to be messy? Yes, it's going to be very messy. But if I can inspire you to do anything, please show up at my doorstep and I'll prove this in person. Just do it messy. Like, just get up and be like, I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do it messy. Everything's a mess. It's fine. It'll all be fine. So, and above all else, when you apply the quote of love as a business plan, remember that it applies to yourself first. And you have to listen to your own soul first, and you have to coach yourself first. And that if that's all you ever get from Beachbody, that's enough. And it matters. And I hope you'll pass that on to every single person that you sign up, that you don't care what rank they are or what they do, but if they love themselves, if you can teach them that they have a place in Beachbody, when they feel like they matter, they'll be motivated. And if they want to coach, they will. And if that fits in their life, they will. And you won't have to drag them or be responsible for them, because you taught them that they matter and that they need to love themselves first, because you'll have done that first, So that's all I have. I only swore once and I didn't even cry. So
Thank you so much for doing this call, Missy. And, I just want to reiterate like a key point that you made, and it's that we get to honor our soul's blueprint and focus on what we want. And I think that a lot of people joining today, their world is immediately so big because of the way social media is now. And we've got national wake-up calls, we have these team calls. And so people will get on a call and they'll hear this other person sharing their soul blueprint and what brings them joy, and they see other goals being fulfilled. And so there's sometimes a confusion on A, what you want, and 2, like what works for you and what lights, like what feels good to you, your soul. And I think that everyone has to learn this lesson at some point, and I think a lot of coaches are learning it up front, whereas I'm grateful that I learned it later, that my world was a little smaller and I was able to have like some momentum with the Beachbody before my world was open. And then you kind of, I feel Missy was the same, that had some momentum and then was like, oh, then you can get caught up in it. But I just think this is so important that everyone realizes that you're going to have the greatest impact in a positive way in other people's lives when you are honoring your soul's blueprint and what lights you up. And that it's not like, oh, you have to do what you see other people doing. You get to use Beachbody as an avenue to elevate your life and other people's lives, and it will look differently. So stay true to you. And Missy, I think this will impact more people than you realize. So thank you for being willing to get on and share. And thank you.
Thank you. I wish I could have seen everybody's faces better, but anyway, bye guys.
Thank you all for getting on. Have a great night, guys.
Bye.